Hi, my name is Ndukwe Ugetri. I'm the creator of this channel, Accounting Software Tutorial. In this tutorial, I'm going to be sharing everything you need to know about QuickBooks, both QuickBooks Online and desktop version. So this is very important. Now, as a beginner who wants to understand how to use QuickBooks, some of the things you need to know is how basic accounting system work. Now, understanding accounting workflow, it's not restricted to an accountant. This is something everybody practice, whether you know it or not. So when you go out there to buy something, or when you go out there to sell whatever services you render or products that you sell, there are basic accounting workflow you follow unconsciously, but you don't know, and that's exactly what all accounting software are designed to follow. The first one is that when you sell, it can either be that you're selling by cash or you're selling on credit. When you sell by cash, you expect your customers to give you money, right? And when they give you the money, you can either keep the money with you or you take it to the bank to record deposits. That's one workflow. You are selling by cash. The first process is to make a sale. The second one is it by cash or credit? If it's by cash, you're supposed to receive money and record deposits. The second process is selling on credit. When you sell on credit, cash is not collected. So at that point, your customer is expected to pay you at a later date. So what happened is that you're supposed to open a book, which we all know, which we all call debtors ledger, or generally known as account receivable. So that account receivable contains list of all your customers and their balances. So the workflow is that if it's on credit, it's supposed to create an account receivable or a debtors book. Now when the customer comes at a later date to pay you, you then receive payment against what they are owing you, and that payment will then be recorded into the bank. That's a simple workflow. So you don't need an accounting background to understand this. This is something that is applicable everywhere. Even the woman on the street who sell basic commodities understand this process. Now on the purchase side too, the same thing applies. It's either you go there to enjoy a service without paying, which is a credit expenses, or you decide to pay immediately. So that workflow is what every accounting system follows. Now the unique nature of QuickBooks that makes it has a very good user experience is that the dashboard has been designed to make this process easier. Like the first process, we talk about selling by cash, which is this create sales receipts, and then you record deposits. The second process is to sell on credit. When you sell on credit, you're expected to receive payment at a later date, and then you record deposit. Now when you incur expenses, we have what we call the enter bill. I'm just giving you a brief summary of this system as a whole. You enter bill. When you enter bill, it is used to record credit expenses that you don't intend settling at that point where the transactions occur. So but it's just to hold that expenses in your book. Now whenever you want to settle your outstanding expenses, you then use pay bills. Now if you're an inventory based company, if you want to make order for a product, you use what we call purchase order to receive inventory and then enter bill against inventory. Now the way this works is that this purchase order is like a request you send to your supplier that you want a certain number of products. This is what you are running out of stock with, and you want them to give you more of this item. A request does not automatically hit your account. A request is just it's like a normal source document. Now when that request is being fulfilled, you are then expected to receive inventory. Receive inventory will then help you receive whatever you have requested for from your vendor or service provider. Then you are expected to record on the system. Now this receive inventory can be with bill or without bill. When it comes with bill, it means that at the point of receiving that inventory, there was an invoice that accompanied it. Now invoice to the seller, bill to the buyer. So it depends on the party. Like for instance, if you are going to create an invoice from this section as a result of a credit sale. To the buyer, he is receiving a bill. To you, you are sending an invoice. So invoice and bill has the same characteristics. It all depends on the point you're looking at it from. From the point of the customer, he's receiving a bill. From the point of the seller, he's sending an invoice. So that's the workflow. So let's just explore some of the things on this system, on this software. First, we have the file. The file here is where you're able to create a new company, manage existing company, and look at all the previous companies you've created. And then you can also run a backup too. This is where you run your backup. If you want to create a backup too, you want to create a portable copy, accountant copy, this is where you get them from, under file. The backup copy will help you create a backup of your file. We have the portable copy, it's like normal compact version of your company file. We have the accountant copy. This is what your accountant uses to make changes. You can actually create an accountant copy and send it to your accountant. So that's some of the things you need to explore on that file. Then for switch to multi-user mode, this is, sorry, before we get there, we have the company close company file. This will help you close your company file. Maybe at the end of the day, you're through with your work, you want to close the file, but don't forget to back up your file at the end of the day. So we have the switch to multiple user mode. This is where you have multiple users and you have different users who are connected, and then you are the first person to log in. So normally you're expected to switch to multiple user mode before everyone can log in. This is not restricted to the admin system. Anybody can switch to multiple user mode as long as he's the first person to log into the system. So it's very important. So we have the utilities. Under this, you can import your transactions via Excel, IFI, web connector, journal entries. You can also export your files to, you can synchronize contacts. You can also convert from Quicken or Peachtree. That if you are using QuickBooks, the old version of QuickBooks, which was Quicken, or you are using Peachtree, you can actually convert to QuickBooks. You can also copy your company for Mac, you can copy your company for online version, and you can also repair file if you're having issues with your company file. You can also verify the data, rebuild and condense. So these are some of the maintenance support is currently offered on QuickBooks. You can also send your company file. It's almost the same thing as what we have the create company. You can also print some of your forms, like printing of bill, payment stubs, checks, credit memo, invoice, label, pay stubs, paychecks, purchase order. So these are some of the documents you can print. You can set up your printer. You can also print out some of your ship packages and all that. That's if you explore any of these shipping agencies to deliver your goods to your customer. Then under the edit, one important part of the edit is what we call the preference. This is also very key. Preference helps you manage some settings on your system. For instance, we have the accountant. Under the accountant, you can use account number. Account number is also very important. Under the account number, this is where you assign account number to various account heads in your chart of account. For instance, if you have a standard account that you use, and each of these accounts, they have their relevant numbers, you are also expected to activate account numbers, so that when you add a new account head, even whether it's a sub account or a category, you expected to assign account number. For instance, all income head may be 5,000, all expenses 6,000, all assets 7,000, all liability 8,000, all equity 9,000, for instance. So these are some of the things you can actually do on QuickBooks under the accountant. So if you realize that you don't have account number on your chart of accounts, just come down to this section to activate account number. And you can also show latest sub account only. So now required account means that whenever you add an account and you don't input your account number, system would prompt you. So that means without the account number you can't save. That's why you have to tick required, but if it's optional, you untick this. Then use class for tracking transaction. Class also help you track transactions by department. So at times you might have different sections in your business. You have department A, department B. Like for instance, a supermarket, you have a grocery, you have toiletries, you have drink sections, and you want to track sales from each of these departments. Some businesses also use class for or branches and locations. For instance, if you use the QuickBooks POS and then for different locations, multiple users, system uses class as a default to track transactions for each of your locations. So if you're required to, this is required, or if your line of business is one that requires activation of class for you, or activation of departments or branches, you need to use this class to do that. So this class is also very important in such a way that when you assign or categorize your transactions by classes, you're able to track the departments or the branch that is generating more money. You can also generate your profit or loss by class by looking at the income and expenses of each of these classes too. Some companies also use class for consulting services too. For instance, you have different consulting services and you want to track which of these sections that is generating most money for you. Now we have prompts to assign class. It means when you enter a transactions and class wasn't selected, or class was not selected on that window, the system will prompt you if you want to continue without assigning class. So that's like a reminder in case you forgot. But if you don't need that, you can also go ahead. So here, automatically assign journal entry to journal entry number. This is where you raise journal entry and you expect the system to help you assign a journal entry number. But if you have yours, you can also do that. Now, when posting the transaction to retain earnings, this is also very important. There are times where you do prior year transactions, where a book for a particular year has been closed, and you realize that there were certain things that need to be reversed back, or there's entries that need to be adjusted. That's like prior year adjustment, which will definitely hit your retained earnings. So will warn you, and if you're sure what you're doing, you then can go ahead. Now there are times where you can also backdate a transactions. Oh, we're already in March and you want to backdate a transaction to December 2018, for instance. So that's more than 90 days. So system also alerts you to be sure that you know what you're doing, and you're also entering a future transaction that is 30 days. System will also alert you. So all these are what you need to understand in QuickBooks. And we also have what we call the closing date. The closing date will help you restrict transactions to certain period, or it also help you to close the book for a financial year. If we have closed the book for 2018 and then you set your closing date to be 31st December 2018 and then input your password and all that, if a non-admin is trying to enter a transactions prior to that date, the system won't allow such. So this is for control purpose, and this only makes sense if you are going to if you have closed your book, it has been audited, everything has been resolved, your book has been reconciled. Now closing date is not restricted to the end of the year. You can also set your closing date on a monthly basis, especially after reconciliation. If you are the admin of a system and you have reconciled your account for a particular month, you can actually set that the end of that month as a closing date to restrict any other user, because any transaction that is posted to that period could also affect your bank balance, which has been reconciled. So sometimes you might expect the person to approach you as a management or as the admin and give you reason for that, and then you can look into it. If it's something you want to post or a non-banking transactions and that is permitted to, you can then use your closing date to gain closing date password to gain entry. So closing date basically helps you close your book or restrict your transactions for a particular period of time, and then it's only available to the admin or whoever has access to the password. So we have the section for bill 2, we have the section for bill. We have these are bills are like the invoices you receive from your service providers or your vendor. So that's also very important. So when you enter a bill, you also need to what is the default period within which that bill becomes due. You could set 30 days default period, you could set 15 days. That means any bill you receive, you want to pay off that bill in 30 days, and if such bill is not paid, you get a system to get a system to turn it to an overdue bill. So in case you want to generate a report that will show you bills that are already overdue, so these are the things you do. We have the paying bills. Paying bills are also some of the settings. These are some of the settings you can do on your paying bills. You can automatically use a credit, you can automatically use discounts. Using credit means that if you make an advance payment or the seller gives you a credit, anytime they send a bill to you, you can probably use that credit to clear the value or the outstanding on that bill. So we have a whole lot more. We have the calendar, we have the checking account. The checking account is where you manage all payments and all that. So we have the print account names on voucher, change the check date when non-cleared check is printed, start with. So these are different settings you can do, and you can also create a paycheck from a particular account. Now this will help you to set a default payment, assuming that you want all payments for expenses to come from a particular account. You can also set it by default here, meaning that whenever I want to make a payment, I can actually select the bank where the money should be coming from. So the moment I go to my right check and select the vendor, automatically a default bank that will be selected, it's what you select here. So this will help you select a default bank for making payments. This will also help you select a default bank for settling for paying all payroll liabilities that are outstanding, all payroll liabilities, I mean. So that's what you need to know. Now we have the desktop view. This desktop view will help you select all the things, items you want to be displayed on your desktop and the ones you don't want to be displayed on your desktop. For instance, if you don't want the estimate to be displayed, you can just check it here and then you click no from this point. That's all, and then you click OK. So if you don't want it, you click no, but if you want it, so these are some of the things you need to understand under your desktop view. You can just click on each of these items. If you are not an inventory based company and there's no need for inventory, you can just double click on inventory and untick this. It means you don't track inventory, but make sure you click OK whenever you effect your change. We have a finance charge too. The finance charge help you set additional charges on invoices that are due, and here you can do your relevant settings. You can set your annual rate, you can set your minimum finance charge, you can set your grace period, you can also set the finance charge account and all that. So that is what assess finance charge on overdue, assess finance charge on overdue finances, calculate charge date from due date or invoice or bill date. So this is what you need to also understand. So we have the general settings, we have the integrated application. This is where you can integrate QuickBooks Desktop with other applications. Then we have the inventory. This is where you do your relevant settings for your inventory. We have the job and estimates, and this is where the same thing that's on a desktop view. So some of the things you have on a desktop view takes you to this each of these features that we have in QuickBooks. So we have the multiple currencies. This is where you set your multiple currencies. If you want to track multiple currencies as a business, you have foreign vendors, you have foreign suppliers, you have foreign bank accounts, you do foreign transactions, the first thing you need to do is to set your multiple currency on the system. So here you select that you use multiple currency, and then you come down here, you click view more currency, and then you select your home currency. The first thing you need to do is to select your home currency first. That's where all the transactions will be reported. We have your payments. This is where you come down to select your payment settings. When you receive payment, you want to automatically apply it to an invoice, you want to automatically calculate your payment, or you want all payment to go to a default account called undeposited fund. You can actually set that on this section here. We have the payroll, we have the reminder, we have the report and graph. This is where you also set your reporting. We have the sales and customer. We have the sales. This is where you set your sales tax to, or your VAT in QuickBooks. Then all these are what you will be able to explore after going through our video. So feel free to subscribe to the video for more information, and if you have a question, you can actually send us your query. Now that's some of the things you need to know under preference. Then we have the list. Under the list, you can go to your chart of account to manage your account settings. Like I said before, your chart of account categorizes all your transactions to either income, expenses, asset, or liability. So this is where you manage all the income heads, all the expense head, and all the asset, liability, and at times this is dependent on the line of business. So before you customize a chart of account, it's important for you to understand a client's line of business so that you will be able to know their income heads, their expense head, their asset and liability. The income head of a retail company may be different from an income head of a property or a legal service or a cooperative society. So understanding the very needs of different industries or different business owners help you to know how a chart of account should be customized. So we have the item list. This is where you set the revenue channel, how the business makes money, either by sales of products or services. So this is where you set them and all that. So let's move on. We have the accountant. The version I'm using here is the accountant version, so because I need to explore a lot of videos, I need to explore a lot of features to help you manage your QuickBooks effectively. An accountant version covers almost everything you need to know about Pro, about Premier, and to an extent some of the things that are available on Enterprise. So we have some of the features you can actually explore on accountant versions too. We have the company. Under the company section, you can check your company info, you can set your password, you can the same closing dates that we saw before, you can do your budget, you can make journal entry, you can also manage currencies too. If you have activated multiple currency, that's where you see currency list. Now this is where you have your customer. Under your customer, this is where you manage all the information about your customer, like adding a new customer, editing an existing customer, or deleting the customer. But you can't delete the customer with an existing balance, so you can only delete the customer with zero balance. So we have the vendor. This is where you manage your vendor. Under the customer center, you're able to view list of all your customers on the system. Under the vendor, you're also able to view all your vendors. Now when you click on each of the customer, you can also see all the recent transactions for that in the name of that customer. So go to your vendor settings. You're also able to manage all the information about your vendor, like adding a new vendor, editing an existing vendor, but you cannot delete a vendor with a balance. This is also very important. These are control measures in QuickBooks. We have your employee center, we have your banking. Under your banking, you can write check, make deposit, do fund transfer, do your reconciliation, enter credit card charges and all that. So on the reporting side of the system, that's where you explore each of the financials of a system, ranging from your profit or loss, your balance sheet, your cash flow, your receivables, your payable report, your inventory report, your banking, your trial balance, and every other financials that you need to, every other information that you need to assess the position of your business. And you can also check industry specific reports like contractor report, manufacturing, professional service business, retail, and the non-profit organization. So these are some of the things you need to understand. So desktop version of QuickBooks is quite robust and it's adaptable to different line of business, whether you're a service-based business, product-based business, an NGO, whatever line of business that you are, you can explore the desktop version and it's offline. So that's the good thing about this particular software. So if you have a question, you can feel free to subscribe to our channel for more videos, drop your comments, and you can then ask your questions.